and we are going to talk a little bit more on the theme of spring equinox and balance. So welcome to everybody who is here, and for those who are going to watch later when the time is more convenient. So our question this week in our burnout cycle group was, when was there a moment where you have felt harmony for yourself? And that was the question we wanted to pose, because in equinox, we've got this balance of light and dark. So this harmony of the two kind of phases of the sun and the moon, let's say. You could link that to other things in your life as well. And there were some beautiful comments that were posted, which we're really grateful for. So thank you for sharing. And we're going to use some of those comments to explain balance in our lives and how we can look at structuring our lives and our balance in a way that will lend itself to hopefully less burnout and more energy. Is there anything you wanted to share, Julia, before I jump into the model we're going to be talking about today?
I want to say hello to everyone for our Tuesday appointment. And I think that, balance is a unique thing. We always think the balance has to be, when you are in balance, you're perfect. But no, this is like always, what's my balance? And it's probably different from mine, like me from your Candy. So it's kind of unique, as we are unique. So we need to be aware of what we need as a body, as mind and soul. And and nature also just this.
Yes. Yeah, and I wonder if the word balance and the word flow maybe can be kind of combined a little bit, because what my balance looks like and yours may be different, and the things or the qualities and the things that are resourcing and that help me have capacity might be slightly different. So one person may need more of one thing and one person may need less. So all of that said, we're going to share with you a brief model of care. Really, it's of self-care. And so if you can envision this triangle, we're not going to pull out slides or anything. You've got at your baseline physiological needs. So balancing out your physiological needs. Then if you can manage that, then the next thing to notice is your emotional needs and your emotional state, and how your physiology reflects emotional state and your capacity to process and feel and deal with your emotions. And from there, this third part of our little triangle is your social needs. So when physiology is met, when emotional state is regulated, we are social creatures. And so that we can then co-regulate together, we can have relationships that are more easeful. And so they all really kind of hinge on each other in this model of care. So what does it mean to have balance in your physiology? We'll talk about three areas. So sleep, movement, and nourishment are the three criteria. And the beautiful examples in our Facebook group today were really, there was a couple of women who spoke about rest. So one was, when I had more rest and, had the diet or the nourishment that I needed, I had more. So notice, and instead of the chin up approach and I can power through, took time for herself to rest and let herself recover. And the beauty of that and the wisdom of that is that recovery and energy typically will happen faster when we notice what our body is asking us to do. And so the things about sleep and movement and nourishment, those are things that are baseline for your health. So if we're not sleeping, we're not eating well, either the food combinations that work for us, and we're not moving our bodies, our emotional state, we can't process our emotions the same way. We don't regulate ourselves as well. And so, think of a sleepless night you've had. Maybe you were studying for exams. Maybe you were up with your kids all night. Maybe your pet was sick. maybe you were meeting a work deadline. Think about how you felt the next day. So typically when we're in those moments where sleep isn't happening, our food choices become poor. We're reaching for, something fast and quick. Maybe it's 5 coffees instead of 2. And then our system is all revved up and it's all confused. And so think about what your response to any stressor in those moments have been. Probably you were a little bit more short, more irritable, maybe angry. You didn't have the capacity to deal in a way that you would have normally without sleep. And the same with movement. Movement is a way to dispel a lot of energy for ourselves, or a way to kind of use our body and process our stress emotions. So having the ability to move is also key. And it's one area that sometimes we tend to forget, that is an important piece to having a physiological baseline that allows you to meet your emotional needs and then be a social creature in a way that is healthy and happy for all of us. And Julia, you had a great example from when you were working in your industry, how this shows up for you.
Yeah, because I mean, at the time I was working in as chef in a restaurant, in a wine bar, and I was living I was also doing this social project, farm social project. I was living at the time with 10 people, and I was working like tons of hours, both in the restaurant, both in the farm. And obviously, like, I was super stressed, but I was in all the time with people, and all the time and more I was working, more my like capacity to socialize and co-regulate, it was short, always shorter. And so I was very nervous. I was always irritating, but obviously the pattern in my mind, it was that I was a victim, that everyone ate me. And so this is like, and it was difficult when you are in that position that you're doing so much and I was never taking time for myself. I was doing so much. So I was just realizing that I was doing so much. And obviously I was also looking at others, kind of, you are not doing as much as I do. And at the same time, I was thinking, oh, I'm a victim. Everyone ate me, like, honestly. And I wasn't thinking, oh, maybe it's because I don't sleep. Maybe because I just self-medicate myself with alcohol to go to sleep, because I was like so stress-holic. Like I was so used to stress that obviously I was like arriving at midnight at home after work and I wasn't able to sleep. So like I had 1 glass of wine. Oh, okay, it's not enough. So I'm going to have a second. So this is the pattern. And so many times we just started to see that and it's when it's too late. Like when you already are in that moment when you started to ruin a relationship, and you treat people like you are mean with people, you are something that was happened to me was like I was very cynical,
Yeah.
Cynical, yes. So everything was like because I was tired. It was a way, actually, my body was trying to protect me. Being cynical when you are in this kind of cycle is because your body protects you because you are not able to process emotion. So because you are not able, you have a wall around you that protects you to being empathic because you can't take anything on anymore. So it's actually like you are not cynic. So the interesting things that in burnout happen, and is what I want to really say, is like when you are there, you are not the problem. There is a real problem happening. But you are not the problem. I wasn't the problem. The problem was how I was living in the moment, and I was completely out of balance, and I was suffering. So my body was just trying to protect me. And there was like, the body has wisdom in this sense, you know? And it tried to balance what is unbalanced in the way that he knows and also he can. So it's very interesting process, but that peak about when you are already unable to co-regulate and really enjoy the world around you, in that moment when you feel disconnected, you're not a victim. There is a problem and you are not the problem. You are good, like you are completely good and a beautiful person. You're just having a huge problem. So
yeah, so part of that is really the things that I think is interesting about your story is how the sleep and then the wine because you couldn't sleep, and how that led to this like very cynical view of the world, and how your body was sort of showing up that way because you couldn't take on anything else. So it was a way for you in your emotional and your physical state to like shut people out because you were at more than max capacity, which is interesting. And so part of like what we've done is look at like, how do you notice when these things, before you get to the state where it's the 2 or 3 glasses of wine and the 15-hour days, what are you noticing? Like, what are the things for yourself that show up? So for me, when I don't sleep or when I'm in a phase where I'm more fatigued, the thing that is my cue to, okay, I need to like ask for help and rest and get more people on board to, help me do whatever it is I need to do, is resentment. I start to resent the other people who seem to be living this beautiful life that I want. Even though I have that life, I'm just tired and I can't see it. And so when I start to notice, I'm like, oh, well, look at them and look at this thing that they get to do. That's when I know I need to ask for more support. I need to rest more. And sometimes that means taking something off my plate. So I like to get up early and I go to a morning class that's at 6 a.m, which means I'm up at 5. So maybe that week, that's one of the weeks where I don't do that class and I go for a walk later in the day and I allow myself to sleep. Or maybe that's the whole week. Or maybe it's going to bed earlier and saying to my spouse, I need you to put the kids to bed. Or, whatever it is, but noticing that thing for me is my first clue that there's something else going on, which is usually something physiological that's not being met. Yeah. Most often for me is sleep. But sometimes it's movement and sometimes it's nourishment. Like maybe we're on vacation and eating crappy things and staying in a hotel and not sleeping and all that stuff. And as wonderful as that is, at the end of all of that, I'm pretty under-resourced.
And if I have to add something, there is also another things that for us women is a real like alarm bell. That is how, if you obviously are you're not taking anticonceptional, because even if it's difficult, you probably, when you are in that situation, you are suffering of PMS and you probably have pain during your menstrual bleeding period. Cycle. Because your cycle, you're bleeding. Because this like stress is actually affect us in all our menstrual cycle, but in that like the 3 days, 4 days before our bleeding period, during our bleeding period is where for me was showing up like crazy. Like actually the wisdom of my body, it was at that time when I was bleeding, I was constricted to be in bed because I was in so much pain that I wasn't neither able to go to work. So there was wisdom into that. Like my body was saying, okay, stop it. And so I was actually—
This is the way that we're going to get you if you're not listening any other way.
And I remember because I was like, oh my God, I'm not functional anymore. And I was like staying in bed 3 days, once a month. Like also the painkiller weren't enough. So I was complaining. I was like, oh, why I can't go to work. I was obviously super upset about the fact that my body wasn't able to work 15 hours a day, every day. So this is quite interesting. Yeah. So I think that also like there are signs and our body try to talk with us, but then
Yes.
is why we always say about ask yourself who I am. What do I need? Because if we don't get in really, if we don't tune into how we are, we can just go through things without, and just being upset as I was like, oh, this is really upset me. Painkiller don't work. It's like, really, Julia?
Rest, mate. Not working
No,
15 hours.
right. The
Yeah.
good things, it was like, yeah, obviously I was upset. So there was also someone else, a woman that today was comments about the give announcement, and she tell us about I allow myself rest. And the words, if we rest, still keep going. Like this is the other thing that we can, oh my God, if I stop, the world will fall apart. This is not true. There is also this. That it was something that I was thinking, oh my God, if I don't go to work, what is going to happen in the kitchen? What is going to happen in the farm? How are they going to do it? They will survive. Everyone's going to survive. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we have, I think the key take homes are really looking at, if you can take a moment and look at, how would you rank your sleep, your movement, your nourishment? Is there areas that you feel like really solid in this area? What are the areas that could use a little more? What's your baseline for just managing day to day? And then when things get stressful, or there's an event or something big that is coming up, either something you maybe know about or something surprising that happens that's stressful, what do you need to think about in terms of increasing that capacity? So do you need more sleep? Do you need more movement? Do you need more walks in nature, or to run on the treadmill to work things off?
Yes,
Foods are you putting in? Yeah, whatever else. There's a million things, but those are kind of the baseline. So, and what do you notice? So this is part of this notice, prevent, and manage that Julie and I will be talking about over the year, is really like, what do you notice when you start to feel like you're under-resourced? Resentment. For Julie, it was cynicism. There's a lot of ways that your emotions will show up to clue you in, and the body too. So more period pain, more illness more of the time, skin rashes, inflammation. Often these are signals that your body is giving you to say, like, there's something to pay attention to here that can't be taken with a grain of salt.
Digestion, Candice.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yes. Our
IBS.
digestion. Oh my God. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So start to notice, like, what are the things that tend to show up when my sleep is off, when my food is off, when my movement is off? What are the things that, because maybe it's not emotions. For me, it's more emotions and then the body follows. But for some, it might be that the body is the first sign that there's something that happens when you're not sleeping. So start to notice what those things are and then work your way backwards. What was happening at the time, and how could I, going forward, be aware that this is my notice pattern, and what are the steps that I can take to find some resources for myself?
Yeah, and also, what can I change? That can be also very little.
Yes.
But sometimes it's like that small thing that change, like 5 minutes where I just stop. Or whatever it is, that it can be a slightly changing your breakfast, a slightly changing something you drink, slightly changing something about movement, 5 minutes walk. Sometimes it can be really, you can start really big, small.
Yeah.
And game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we often assume that any change we make has to be this like big 180, which is not sustainable. And sometimes it is. I started a morning movement practice, setting my alarm 2 minutes earlier in the day. So every few weeks I would take 2 minutes and set my alarm back that further. So I went from, I think, getting up at like maybe 6:45 or 7. I'm now mostly up between 5 and 6. That may not be everybody's jam, but it started in 2-minute increments. And those 2 minutes of movement that I had felt miraculous. And then that turned into 4 minutes, and then it turned into more. But really, it's small things. And maybe it's instead of 5 cups of coffee today, I'm going to have 4 and an extra glass of water, or whatever it is. You know, it's small things over time.
Yeah.
And what fits into your life in a way that feels good for you.
And it's how things become unique for you, because you are unique. So
that's right. That's right. So I think Julia had mentioned your unique formula in one of her posts, and that's what we want you to start to think about, is what is your unique formula? What are the things you notice, and what are the things that you need to feel good in your own body?
And in your own life.
Yes.
With these, have a nice, beautiful spring equinox week. I hope you can enjoy some sun everywhere you are in the world. I'm already at 20 degrees, so there's plenty here of sun. But I know that, and you know, Candice, we are not.
Yes.
But
not yet. I still have a ton of snow. Soon.
Sun will arrive. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
We'll see you next
Tuesday.
week.
Yeah.
Yes.